Now sitting at 0-6, the New York Jets are looked to be big sellers at the November 4th trade deadline that is quickly approaching. We'll go through a couple names of some speculated players in today's latest ESPN article about potential packages and landing spots for some guys if they do decide to sell off some assets. Let's get into it.
Bring that here, all right? Go up there and press them and choke them out.
What's going on, Jets fans? It's your boy DT back with another live stream. Hope everybody is enjoying their week. Finally back from New Jersey. I got stuck in New Jersey. My flight was canceled Monday. Had to wait till yesterday to fly back home. So everything feels a day off, but that's okay. Hope everybody's doing well. Just wanted to come on tonight and talk about the trade deadline. There was an article that came out today by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN that was like co-written by Dan Graziano, explaining a couple players that could be dealt from the Jets at the trade deadline. A lot of big names included in this article, some that we have discussed mostly at length, and then there's some new names in there that I feel like are just for shits and giggles, for lack of a better term. And I feel like they're just kind of throwing players in there to see what sticks. But nonetheless, we'll go through it. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit that like button on the way in. You see it right here in the corner. We're on the road to 2,000 subs. So please hit that subscribe button. I would certainly appreciate it. I understand the Jets are not doing well, but in order for my channel to do well, I need you guys to hit that like and subscribe button. So, we're all in it together, Jets fans. I'm not, going to abandon you guys like that Panthers podcaster a couple weeks ago who quit on his team. Fittingly so, we're playing the Carolina Panthers, so they'll be tuning into all our content, trying to figure out how they can get the best of this 0-6 football team. So appreciate everybody tuning in. If you guys do want to become a member of the channel, and A1 since day one community is $4.99 a month. You can get exclusive content. I do need to admit that I have been slacking on it, but I have a quarterback breakdown coming out later this week of Fernando Mendoza. That's going to be members only for at least the first week, and then we'll make it public. And then I also have a couple other draft and film-related things that I want to throw in there for you guys. So A1 since day one community, $4.99 a month. I certainly appreciate it. Kyle calling me out, slacker. Absolutely, I am. I mean, the team is slacking on the field, so going through and cutting up the film and putting it all together, it's honestly such a dreadful process. I'd rather just bring you data and charts and talk about the film without having to show it, because watching it once is bad enough, and watching it 2-3 times each week is I don't know. We're gluttons for punishment, I guess. So I appreciate you calling me a slacker. I will get on that for the members only community. I certainly appreciate all you guys at that tier. So getting into the article, the first thing I wanted to talk about when prefacing this entire conversation is, what does the trade now versus the compensatory pick in the future look like? So I guess what that means is Muji and the front office need to do their homework, find out what these guys are going to get in free agency coming up. Guys on expiring contracts like Quincy and Brees, see what that contract is going to look like from another team, and then weigh that in the comp pick formula compared to what they would get right now at the buy or at the trade deadline, where I think you're roughly going to get pennies on the dollar compared to what you could get in the offseason or comp pick formula. Also, the other part of that is, if they don't think that they're going to be big spenders in free agency in 2026, which I understand, I think they have top 8 or top 10 cap space heading into next season. It could be even higher after a couple moves. If they don't anticipate themselves being big spenders, perhaps that's going to, weigh into their comp pick formulas for the future. And perhaps they want to allocate more of those instead of trying to just sell off at the deadline. So I don't really I guess, advocate either way, but I just think that they need to do their homework first and foremost to make sure that everything is kind of buttoned up before they just trade Quincy Williams for a fifth this year. Could you potentially get a fourth round comp pick in free agency in 2027 if Quincy's gone? And we'll get into those types of things, but I wanted to preface it by saying they really need to calculate and do their homework on what they think these guys will gain in the free agency market. So a lot of these names are defensive. There's really only one offensive player, and I think that kind of makes sense. Most of the talent on this team is defensive driven, even though the defense really hasn't played like it up until this past week. Quinnen Williams, it's a hard no for me. Unless, he asks you to leave and specifically says, hey, I don't think that this rebuild timeline is going to fit my timeline in my career. I'm almost, to 30 years old. I think he's 28 or 29 at the end of this season. So he's getting up there. I know DTs can play for a little bit longer. Obviously, you don't want to bank on that with Quinnen Williams, but I think he has 4 or 5 at least good years left in him. So if he says he wants to leave, you obviously have to let him go, but I'm not doing it. I'm probably not even answering the phone unless it's a 1+, preferably a third or fourth rounder, like a high fourth rounder, or like a comp third pick, or a young player who has 1, 2, 3 years left on their rookie deal, sort of like the Jarvis Brownlee trade, how we acquired him and we have him for 2.5 seasons before we really have any contractual obligations to repay him or extend him. So I would look for a 1+, a young up and coming ascending player that they feel can fit in their defense or offense, really. But the thing is with Quinnen is you're trading him to a team who's likely going to make a playoff push. So you're not going to see a pick that's, top 25 in the first round. It's probably going to be picks 26 to 32. So you really have to weigh that compared to what you think Quinnen Williams' talent level is. I don't think you're finding a defensive tackle who's going to give you Quinnen Williams level quality, maybe within the first 2 years of that rookie contract even. So you really have to weigh it all out. And that's another part of this whole thing that Darren Muji has to do in his now second offseason with the team. So it's a hard no on Quinnen unless the package kind of blows me away or he wants to leave on his own. So that's Quinnen there. The other two names also along the defensive line, Jermaine Johnson, no. No. I don't know how else to put it, but no. We saw the difference he made immediately on that defensive line. You also kick Michael Clemens into a more tertiary, rotational role where he was also used on the inside, where it was Quinnen, Will McDonald, Quinnen, Clemens, and Jermaine Johnson as your front four in some cases. And that's how he was able to win against guards twice, getting a holding penalty. In limited action, Michael Clemens actually did a thing, and he drew a holding penalty on a crucial 3rd and 5. And then he also got the holding penalty for the safety. So having Jermaine Johnson out there, it just puts things back in their normal order. And Braden McGregor can be your 10 snap a game guy, and even 10 is still a little too high. So it's a hard no on Jermaine Johnson. I don't even know if I entertain it unless, again, this package has to blow you away. But again, we're trading anybody. We'll trade me to a different team, and I'll create content for a new team if the price was right. I'm sure you guys would do that. So Jermaine Johnson is a hard no for me. Will McDonald, again, it's a no. I still don't even think the package could blow me away to the point where I want to get rid of him. And I understand game script wise, it doesn't go Will McDonald's way a ton because we're either playing from a huge deficit and, we're playing catch up and they're running the ball. So it doesn't make sense to put him in on early downs, but it felt like they used him more on early downs in this game and things were, fine. He's not a complete liability. I understand the metrics and the EPA and things of that nature say otherwise, but I really feel like on film, Will McDonald is a capable run defender. And he's also going to stay home on those naked keepers that Bo Nix like to do. That was the big thing for me, is that when Bo Nix did the naked keepers, Jermaine and Will McDonald both were staying home. So I don't want to see this edge room get depleted. I've already been calling for more names to be added to it. And potentially they could if they, do a Jarvis Brownlee type swap with somebody buried on a depth chart somewhere. So it's a hard no for pretty much all the defensive linemen for me. Obviously, the names of the teams that were associated with Jermaine and Will McDonald were the 49ers because of Rob Saleh, and they lost Nick Bosa, and then they also lost Fred Warner. So we'll get into Quincy Williams in a second, but it's no surprise that Rob Saleh is going to come asking for some of his players that he was able to do well with. And, that's fair. Obviously, a lot of Jets fans would probably say that they would thrive in Saleh's defense a lot better. I think through 6 weeks, they've only really had one game of okay, they put it all together on defense and were able to show it. So that's not really an argument that I'm willing to have. But if any of these guys go, I certainly don't want it to be to a Saleh-led defense, because then all we'll hear is how good these guys are and how good they could have been for us. And we traded them away for a 4th-round pick. So definitely a hard no on all these defensive linemen. Quincy Williams, I just mentioned. Again, expiring contract. The 49ers are looking at him as a potential spot to trade for. Again, they lost Fred Warner. Devastating injury. That was so gross. Watching that video, it didn't look bad, but the injury itself was so gross with Fred Warner. So that was unfortunate to see. I really like him as a player. Quincy would fit in, obviously. I'm not taking anything less than a 3rd for Quincy. If it's a comp 3rd pick, maybe I kind of, lean into it. A comp 3rd wouldn't be terrible for him. Some things that make me more inclined to trade him is that Kiko Malinoa came off his best game. I'm not going to put, full stock in him being a great linebacker 2 next to Sherwood, because I think Sherwood even has his limitations and shortcomings, which we'll get into in just a second. But Kiko did have a really good game in week 6. I think he graded out as the 4th highest PFF linebacker on film. He was doing really well. The eye discipline from the entire defense was much better, but specifically the linebacker play was really improved, in my opinion. So that defensive players only meeting seemed to work. I just don't know if I can trust him full time yet. And I know Quincy's dealing with his injury, and he should be back right around the trade deadline date. So that makes it really murky. Do you trade Quincy without seeing him again in your defense now that everything's kind of clicking for these guys? You plug in a Quincy Williams in this defense, I think, it's only up from here. I don't think he makes your unit worse. So much like Jarvis Brownlee came in and had an immediate impact, I think Quincy, coming off injury can have that same impact. So maybe you see Quincy for one game before the trade deadline and then you can make your decision. But I don't know. I really kind of want to keep both the Williams brothers here. So I'm cool with keeping Quincy and seeing what happens in the offseason. Now, the thing with Quincy is his asking price next, this upcoming offseason. If he's asking for, $13-14 million at off-ball linebacker, that's obviously a tough ask, for the GM to try to trade 2 off-ball linebackers. They just paid Sherwood a AAV of $15 million. So that would be a tough ask, obviously. So you have to either let him walk in free agency if that is the price, or you can bring him back on a lower deal if maybe the market isn't that high for him. But obviously, there were rumblings that teams wanted Jamie Sherwood at a higher price than the Jets got him for. So I don't know. Do you eat the cost and trade Sherwood and extend Quincy Williams? I know that's such a hot take that's going to get a lot of, flack, and that's fine. I'm not stamping that as my take, but when I'm going through it all, I'm Sherwood is probably the lesser of the 2 linebackers, in my opinion. I would rather see Quincy stay over Sherwood based on what I've seen Sherwood do on film. But I'm not saying you just eat all that dead money that comes with trading Jamie and Sherwood to a team. They would have to take on a lot of that contract as well. Plus, you have to couple in the fact that Williams gets his extension. So it's a far-fetched hot take about the linebacker room, but I really would rather see Quincy here than Jamian. And that's, it's fine. Jamian has, had his moments, and I feel like he was pretty good on Sunday against the Broncos, but there was that 1 3rd down where he was up against Marvin Mims, who was lined up in the backfield, and he ran the wheel route and he couldn't get through all the traffic, and he let up a 26-yard gain, which led to the field goal drive. The drive that ended in the field goal came off of that big 3rd down conversion against Sherwood and man. So yeah, you can blame Steve Wilkes for putting the guys in man, and it was just really good offensive concept. He had 2 kind of slant or hook routes into traffic, and Sherwood had to sift through all the mess and get to his wheel route out of the backfield. So I don't know. It was a tough ask for Sherwood on the play, but I'd rather see Quincy on this team. That's basically what it comes down to. So I'm not looking to deal Quincy, and you're kind of sensing a theme here. I'm not really looking to deal Quincy unless it's a compensatory third or like a high fourth plus. But then again, you're not trading him to a team that's going to be picking high in the fourth round. These are probably going to be playoff contenders for the most part. Now, these next two, I would say, are the most likely to be dealt. Michael Carter II. And again, I guess personally, I wouldn't want to trade him. I think I would first rather try him at safety. He does have 2 years left on his contract, which accounts for 4% of the cap space. I use the percentage of cap space because I feel like it's a lot easier to understand rather than 12.5 million cap hit for the next 2 years. Nobody like really cares what that number means. It just sounds like a really high number, but it's only 4% of the cap space for the next 2 years. So it's not a ton of money if you wanted to try to make the transition to safety with him when he comes back from the concussion. And I know he came back from practice today. So there's the case to be made that you put Michael Carter back at safety. And I looked at the numbers of who's making between 12 to 13 million because, again, that $12.5 million cap hit for Michael Carter. Safeties making between 12 and 13 million. Grant Delpit of the Browns, Jalen Thompson of the Cardinals, Josh Metellus of the Minnesota Vikings, and Talanoa Hufanga, who we just saw with the Denver Broncos. So to me, I mean, I believe Michael Carter could be as good or maybe like a tick below some of these guys in terms of his safety play, just because I think he's such a cerebral player that maybe being up in press with all the injuries that he's had to his neck and back and whatever he's dealing with now. I think it's a leg injury potentially. Like he's just dealing with a lot of injuries that I feel like when you're up in press and you have to be more like reactionary and shifty, it's going to hurt him in his like short area quickness, which I felt like he always excelled at, his closing speed on the ball. Now, if you put him back at safety, he has a couple more yards to have like react and diagnose speed to get to each play. And I still think he could be effective. Now, how long do you use that? Like, do you use just the end of this year as a sample size to see if he can play safety? Do you just use him when he's healthy up until the trade deadline at safety to see if it can work now that Brownlee seems to be your penciled in slot cornerback? So a lot of things go through my mind specifically with Michael Carter. I still wouldn't mind trading him. Like if you dealt him for, a fifth rounder, a high fifth, or like something that equals out to be like a late fourth, I think that's really good. You paid him a lot of money to be like, at the time, I believe it was the highest or second highest paid nickel corner. And obviously things just haven't worked out. So we'll see what happens with him specifically. And I think, mid-day 3 asset. The other thing, obviously, and I mentioned it a little bit there, is Jarvis Brownlee starting in the slot. Like that is a move that obviously when the trade happened, we were wondering if it was going to be like a versatile role. Like, was he going to play safety? It immediately looked like he's going to be the slot guy. I know they used Malachi Moore a lot in the slot last week against Dallas because Brownlee wasn't healthy fully. So now that Brownlee pencils in as your slot corner, it does give you a lot more versatility, which admittedly, I thought they had the versatility coming into the season. Clearly, a lot of these players aren't living up to the billing or honestly being coached up to the billing that we thought they would be. So, admittedly, I was wrong about a lot of the guys in the secondary, but Michael Carter, the injuries have been killing him. So if you could find a role for him at safety, that wouldn't be the end of the world. And then the other guy who I think is more likely to be traded than not be traded. And again, I wouldn't do this trade. I think the only person I'm actually like willing to trade at this point is Michael Carter. But running back Breece Hall, I do think he is second most likely to be dealt after Michael Carter. The reasons why I don't think he would be dealt like as the top priority to be shipped away by the Jets is Braylon Allen's injury, still 8 to 10 more weeks with his knee injury. There's a chance we don't even see him again. I've been kind of speculating that. I'm not trying to put that out there like I want him to sit out the rest of the season, but I mean, we all think this team's going to be 1-14 by the time he gets back from injury. So like, is it worth running him into the ground for 2 games and trying to, see what you got in him when you feel like you have a plan for him for the future? So you might as well just sit him on the shelf full time. So perhaps we don't see him back. And then unless they believe in Isaiah Davis, Khalil Herbert, and a running back to be named later because they're going to have to add somebody if they get rid of Brees, obviously. I mean, how do you think you can have a functional run game and they want to pound the rock the way that they do? I don't see it with just that stable of guys. So that, for my opinion, that's why I think Brees stays. Obviously, the rumors have been a 5th-round pick. Connor Hughes said he asked about a 3rd-round pick and was basically laughed at by some league source. So, like, if they don't think he's going to get a 3rd back, I think Jets fans are just going to be disappointed in the return for Brees. Like, I have no other way to say it. Like, the people that even want Brees Hall gone, I think they want more for Brees Hall than what he's actually going to get. So don't be so quick to say get rid of Brees, because that return is not going to make you happy. I don't think. Like, what, we can trade him for a 5th-round pick so we can go get Tyler Barron again? Like, I don't understand. Like, we complain about the 5th-round picks that the team makes in their first year of the regime with not their scouting staff, by the way. And then we say we got to trade Brees, and then the trade package we get is a 5th-round pick, and then we use the 5th-round pick on a guy that we don't like from a school we've never heard of, and the cycle continues. So, like, maybe we shouldn't trade all our guys for pennies on the dollar, and that's why I don't think Brees should go. I think he should, you obviously field calls, but like I don't see it. Like, what are you going to do without Garrett Wilson and without a Brees Hall? Like, if Garrett Wilson misses time and you have no Brees Hall, I don't want to watch that offense with no Garrett or Brees. Like, that is scary hours. We're already in scary hours with no Garrett Wilson this week, but like no Brees Hall, like no, nope, I'm good. And maybe they don't decide if they want to franchise tag him or do the quasi tag extension, which is like 2 years with most of it guaranteed. That would kind of equate to using the tag twice on him. Sure, maybe they're less likely to go down that avenue. They could do it, but I don't know. I don't think getting the return now is the best option on Brees Hall, because I think what he brings to the offense currently is more important. So with that, I'm not saying yes to a Brees trade, because a 4th-rounder still doesn't sit well with me. Like, I don't want a top 135 pick. Like, pick 130 to 140 is the back end of the 4th round. I don't want that for Brees Hall. It's not for me. So I think this team, and I don't really want to phrase it like this, but the other element of it too is a lot of us are very undecided on this coaching staff and this front office to make future decisions. So why should we let them make now decisions, right? Let them keep all their tools, keep all their cards in their hand, see what they can do with those cards, and then assess what those hands look like at the end of the season, and if they should be worth getting dealt more hands at the table. That's kind of my thing too. Like, if you trade off Quincy and you trade even Quinnen, right? If somebody said both of them go to San Fran, if both of those guys leave your defense, we're already headed down 0-17, and I'm sure we could, if we're going to go 0-17 with them, we'll go 0-17 without them. But like, don't give the coaching staff more like wiggle room to say we didn't have the talent down the back end of the season. We made all those moves to feel better about the future, and we didn't have the talent. So now we really need to get the talent in here that we like next season. Like, you're almost like giving them a pass for this year because they traded away all the talent. So like, I just don't want to give the coaching staff any like excuses for like why they should get a second year. Because if we don't think they should get a second year, we just need to be honest and say that. Right now, I think he isn't deserved of a second year, but I think he should get that second year based on what I believe the unknown of the next 11 games is going to look like. I don't think this team is going 0-17. I truthfully don't. Like, 3, maybe 4 wins. Like, I don't think it's impossible to get those wins, and I don't think it's going to be like the last 2 weeks of the season wins. I actually think like of the next 3 games, if we won 2 of the next 3, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. So I don't think this team is going 0-17. I don't want there to be like more excuses for this coaching staff if we don't feel they are the ones that are going to take us forward. Right now, I'm still, undecided, right? I think Engstrand has done a lot of good things up until this week, where I felt like he wasn't using Fields to the best of his ability. Wilkes is finally getting things turned around. So I don't know. I don't hate it. Obviously, I hate the coaching decisions and the situational awareness and the football IQ on display from the sidelines, because obviously that translates to what's being put on the field. So it's just I'm undecided until the next 11 games happen. I see a lot of issues in the chat. Is something going on with the stream? Let me know if you guys can hear and see me okay. I'm not sure if it's Bill having issues or if it's Robin having issues. So those are really my thoughts on the trade deadline, guys. As it stands now, not a big believer in trying to trade. Okay, you're good, Bill. not a believer in trading our guys just yet. I rather see the talent, and whether it's talent or overrated talent or lack of talent, however you want to phrase it, I just want to see the best version of this roster going forward. And because we don't know if AG is the guy, I want him to be the guy, and I think he still can be. But after this Sunday's game, I really need to see a turnaround from the decision-making process. With that, we'll get into a couple of other notes that I had from the game and some other, I guess, like data that I thought was interesting about our third down defense, because I do think it's turning the corner a little bit. Our third down defense is getting a lot better. I don't really think first and second down have been this team's issue. I think it's really just third down. So I have some notes about that. But I did want to talk about, obviously, this offense. -10 net passing yards. 0.4 yards per pass for Justin Fields. 0.4. Truly a crazy stat to have 0.4 yards per pass. Special teams set us up with so much good field position in this game too, which I think goes so under the radar. You started at the +37 after the fumble, which great job by the defense finally getting that turnover, that monkey off the back. Hopefully things kind of keep rolling. And then after that big return, you started at the 24-yard line of the Broncos. You settled for 2 field goals on those drives. Both those drives were 4 plays, 1 yard. That is unacceptable. And those were the first 2 drives of the game. So, like, usually Tanner Engstrand has good scripts. His first, 15, 20 plays, whatever they script it out and go through in the walkthrough. Usually Engstrand has been good week to week, other than maybe Buffalo this year, with actually, getting his players in positions to do well. I think he could throw more with Fields early on in games, but he ran away from TJ Watt in week 1, and they were really reliant on that 12 personnel run game that worked. Fast forward to Tampa Bay, and I thought he had a good game plan for Tyrod Taylor to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Obviously, they just couldn't stop those safety blitzes. In Miami, again, but that is a coaching flaw, obviously. And then Miami, I thought they did a good job of gashing them in the run game, and I felt like if it wasn't for the Braylon Allen fumble, they would have, probably stomped all over the Dolphins. Week 5 against the Cowboys, I believe they scored a field goal on their first drive, and then 2 drives later was the Brees fumble. So, like, they're getting down there early on in games, but this game they just couldn't get anything going. 4 plays, 1 yard for both their first 2 drives. And then they had a 3-and-out on their third drive, and you almost could tell it was going to be one of those games from Justin Fields. And it feels like maybe not necessarily like Buffalo all over again, because we couldn't do anything defensively. But from an offensive perspective, this felt like he was out of it from the jump. After those first 3 drives, it really didn't feel like it was going to get better. He was already holding on to the ball too long, taking sacks. You were seeing guys open just within like the 6 or 7 yards of broadcast, footage. Obviously, you can't see the back end of these plays, but guys were coming open, flat routes, slant routes, ins and outs. I feel like he was, missing a lot of short stuff early. Then you get to that 2-minute warning, and there's no urgency. It's like he's standing over looking at the sideline with 28 seconds left to go. It's 4th down. Your guys are set up 2 by 2 spread formation. I'm like, okay, they're going to try for a Hail Mary at the last second. And then they don't do a Hail Mary. It's like, that was when I immediately flipped a switch as like a fan. And I was like, all right, we can't do this. This is not ever going to win us a football game. You couldn't tell me you can't get, 8 to 10 yards for a field goal, or at least let Justin Fields throw it deep. All we know is that Justin Fields has good deep ball accuracy, but we never get to see it. All we get to do is talk about it. So, like, let him throw it deep. Garrett Wilson's down there somewhere, right? Like the meme of Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's just anything could have happened down there. A penalty, anything could have happened. You could have caught it. We've seen Hail Marys happen before. Obviously, it was Aaron Rodgers, but it was Allen Lazard on the other side of it. So like anything could have happened if you just tried to throw the ball. And I felt like you were coaching scared immediately to go into the locker room 10-6. And the no urgency, then you come out of the next half and you have a really good kick return. You get the ball, you're down 10-6. You start the drive at the 43-yard line. You go 37 yards on that drive, but you end up, I believe, punting. So, like, they really didn't do anything offensively, obviously. And it's crazy because now I'll flip over to the defense. The Broncos went 5 for 15 on defense against us. I believe it was last week they were 4 of 12 or 4 of 14. Our defense against the Cowboys offense, which is really good considering how much the Cowboys kind of beat us. They just really didn't get to that many third downs, honestly. But in this game, the Broncos were 5 of 15 on third down. We were 2 of 15. Like we said, hold my beer. Like we'll one up you, Denver. Hold on. And that's what really pissed me off. And then the last thing I'll say about the offense, when you're trailing 13-10 and you waste the timeout in the fourth quarter, 10 minutes and 23 seconds just to punt it away again. Come on. That's scared coaching. That's bad coaching. That's unacceptable coaching. And like, I understand. I think AG admitted that was a mistake. You can't even have that in a game that it is this close. And then the drive when they're trailing 13-11, and all they needed was about like 15 to 18 yards to get into actual Nick Folk range, not that phantom range of 65 to 68 yards that Aaron Glenn was talking about. You had a run for 0 yards, the miss on the quick out to Garrett Wilson where it was behind him, and then obviously Garrett comes up hurt, and I don't think he comes back in for the rest of the game. And then Justin Fields is walloped for his 8th sack of the game. So it's like one of those drives you put into Rod Taylor, any one of those fourth quarter or second half drives, and you're probably winning the game 14-13 or 17-13 or even 17-10 because Denver, might not even get that chance to kick that field goal, depending on game flow and when you go to Tyrod and make that switch. So the defense, I have a lot of positives, so I saved this part for last. I thought the defense did much, much better. Obviously, we talked about Brownlee a little bit earlier. Immediate impact by him, immediate impact by JJ back from injury. I mentioned it a little bit before. JJ and Will McDonald staying home on the keepers that really dictated a lot of things. And there was one zone read play on third down where Bo Nix kept it, and the end man of line of scrimmage was Braden McGregor, and he pinched down too hard. So it was like the one time that they didn't have McDonald and JJ in there, they really took advantage of it. Not the one time, but that crucial third down moment where they didn't have either one of those guys on the field. But I thought the edges did a really good job. Other than that, linebackers, way more eye discipline. Nobody was biting on the play action as hard. You didn't have 2 or 3 guys selling out to the quarterback as he was scrambling, just allowing that layered throw right over their head to the wide open crosser. I felt like the one thing I didn't really like about this defense was the amount of 6 defensive back sets. So like big nickel where they had Isaiah Oliver on over Kiko Maligoa. That was probably the one negative that I caught going back and watching it, especially on third down. Like there were situations, and we'll get more into the third downs at the back end of this, but there were some situations where they had 6 defensive backs on the field and they weren't matching the offensive personnel of the Broncos, and they got beat. So I felt like Evan Ingram was kind of killing us for most of the game. They had the wide open touchdown to Atkins right after the big first down conversion to Evan Ingram, which really sucked. I believe that was the one on Jamie and Sherwood where he just like caught it right behind him for like a 16-yard gain. Andre Cisco comes flying down, misses a tackle, and then the very next play is the wide open fullback touchdown. So Sherwood didn't have the best game, although he did have a better game comparatively to the rest of the season for him. But that was tough watching Evan Ingram kind of cook all our second-level defenders. The other thing about Jarvis Brownlee that I think Quincy brought to this team that we no longer have is the screen buster. Jarvis Brownlee was able to diagnose screenplays very easily. He even busted through 2 blockers and made a tackle on the screenplay. So Jarvis Brownlee, as many gold stars as you can award a player for one game. Certainly buying Jarvis Brownlee's stock as our slot corner. He forced the fumble, but he kind of got beat on the route in the scramble drill. But it did look like a little bit of offensive pass interference by, I believe it was Troy Franklin who caught the pass. So it's definitely a Jay-Z. That's funny. Screen Buster is a good nickname. Well, we had a Buster Screen at one point, and he never once was the screen buster for this team. So that's actually kind of funny. But yeah, Jarvis Brownlee is definitely the screen buster for me, especially with no Quincy. So I like that for sure. Michael Clemens, I talked about, he drew 2 holdings, which he did a thing. Couldn't believe it. They played Quinnen on the edge. They had a rep where they had Quinnen on the edge and Jermaine Johnson standing over top of the center and the guard. So I like those little iterations of the front 4 that they're changing up now that they have Jermaine Johnson back in the fold. As Billy asks, Angstren just asked, what's a screen? Yeah, I don't know. That thing you put in the window to stop the bugs and the leaves from coming in when you want to open the window for fresh air. That's what a screen is, according to Tanner Engstrand. There's actually evidence that they try screens on film, but it was a lot last week, and they were just getting demolished up front, and Justin Fields couldn't even look in the direction of the screen pass. I'm not saying they're doing it a lot, but it feels like every time they try a screen pass, like the 2 opening screens on the opening drive against Dallas, and then the one hit the sky cam, and they're supposed to get a redo on 3rd and 7. It's like we try screens, and I feel like it's like the worst timing, or it's like against the worst timed defense to go against the screen. Like they just have man, and they just man up 3 to a side, or like whatever they match us with, and they beat us whenever we do a screen. So it's like it's always ill timed, and it just the execution is always off on a screen. Like just have a day where you practice screens. As an offense, just tight end screens, wide receiver screens, running back screens. Just try it, because then you can bust it out and do the wheel route with Breece Hall where it looks like a screen, but it's not, and he just breaks it upfield once the defender stops his feet. So ways to utilize your offensive playmakers that this team is not. We have a list of all the ways that this offense can succeed, and I feel like the team just crumples it up and throws it in the fire. At least in this game they did. So there was also, and I don't know if this is really talked about at all, but there was a play, one of the sacks, Justin Fields gets absolutely walloped. Like he was spun around and like face mask pushed in, fell flat on his back type of look. I honestly thought he was concussed. And the next play, not the next play, but I guess technically the next offensive play for the Jets, because it was a 3rd down sack. That 1st down, that was the fumbled snap by Justin Fields. And now I have to go back and look at what happened on the snap, if it was Josh Myers' fault or if it was Justin Fields. But the first thing that went through my head was he just took a headshot and then he dropped the ball on a snap, and Breece Hall had to pick it up and run for 7 yards and just save the play. I was like, is this guy concussed and like not coming out of the game? Because that would have been the easiest excuse if you're the coaching staff to say, hey, we're going to go to Terrell. We didn't like the look in Justin's eyes after that hit that he took on 3rd down. He came off the field and we didn't like the way he was responding to with his eyes and whatever. Like he didn't look like he was all there. Like it would have been the easiest excuse to go to Tyrod Taylor, but then they fumbled the snap coming out of the next drive. So it was very, very strange. I mentioned Isaiah Oliver over Kiko Malinois. I didn't really like that. He got beat, not a lot, but enough times where it was like, that doesn't really, make sense to have Isaiah Oliver out there. There was a rep where Sherwood was one-on-one with Cortland Sutton in the red zone, and they ran a corner route with Cortland Sutton, and it actually worked. The throw was pretty good. It was like inbounds enough where Cortland could have caught it, but I just don't think he turned around and located the ball fast enough, or else it probably would have been a touchdown on Jamie and Sherwood's head. So there were some things to like about the defense for sure, and some things not so much to like about the defense. still. But, I'll take giving them 13 points all day. Give me 13 points against the defense, and our offense should definitely be able to come up with more than 3 field goals because obviously the safety was on defense. So the defense was technically responsible for 11 points when you factor in the fact that they got 2 back on their own. It's like we shouldn't be living in the world where defense needs to score touchdowns and win us games. Like we've been through that with Zach Wilson, and that's what it reminded me of. It was like we need a pick six or a fumble or a kickoff return to win this game, and that's not how this team should be playing whatsoever. I guess my biggest takeaways are Wilkes maybe shouldn't be fired yet defensively. I think it's we got to see. I was blaming a lot of the players for the execution, and it seemed like they kind of stepped it up. Offensively, I think it's just no urgency, no trust, no success. That's kind of the mantra right now. I don't think Engstrand trusts Justin Fields to make full reads. I don't think Justin Fields trusts himself to do the zone read stuff where he's reading the end man line of scrimmage and deciding to hand it to the back or keep it himself. I don't think he's doing well with that either. So there's just a lack of trust, a lack of urgency, and that's always going to lead to a lack of success in this NFL. Offense is always going to be the ruler of this league moving forward. So your defense did enough, more than enough, in my opinion. You forced 7 punts, 4 3-and-outs. You get a safety, you get a fumble on the first drive. You get stopped inside the 10 and have to settle for a field goal. It's just not enough from the offense this game. Not enough, certainly not enough from the coaching staff. And that's kind of my biggest issue coming out of this is I was ready to, last week I was ready to give them more time. And this week proved that, like, maybe they don't deserve as much time. And I'm not saying push the panic button and fire these guys just yet. I still think you got to give them the rest of the season. But even last week I said you got to give them 20 games. So that's 3 games into next season. And it's like, depending on how these next 11 go, if they look anything like this game that we just watched against the Broncos where we were in it, we had a chance to win, and it felt like very slight moves, which I guess, yeah, changing your quarterback is a major move, but slight moves in terms of going for it instead of kicking or, kicking instead of going for it, burning timeouts and not having enough time at the end of the game. It's just, I don't know. It's the coaching really let us down in this game, and it actually kind of makes you think what this staff wants out of this year. Like, we know it's an evaluation year for everybody, but do they want the first overall pick? I don't know. Like, I don't want to blame them or accuse them of tanking or anything like that, but it's just when you make moves like that, you like how are you an NFL coach and you're making such shitty moves like that in game? You have a situational game manager who you hired this year to be your helper in those situations. You have to know, okay, if we get to 4th and short, we got to know we are going for it, we aren't going for it. We have to have the play call ready. It feels like they get to the situation and then they make the decision. They're not like one step ahead of the flow of the game. So just tough decisions. The punts, putting Justin Fields out there on 4th and 8, I just try the field goal. I guess they weren't in range at that point on the final drive, but when you were, I believe it was the drive before, it's like you have to, when you're in that situation, just get into field goal range and kick it. Like, it's not, I don't know. I would have much rather gone down swinging on Nick Folk's leg than with Justin Fields' arm, I guess is the simplest way to put what I'm trying to say. And it was very frustrating because that was the closest we might get to a win outside of week 1 this year. And that's not a good feeling if we can't find an opportunity to see a win on the schedule. And we're coming up against a pretty easy portion of our schedule. We were projected to have the 3rd easiest schedule from here on out. It's like us, the Patriots, and I think maybe the Bills. I think it's all AFC East teams, which makes sense because of the, other divisions that they're playing against are the same. So it's obviously, pretty, consistent throughout this division. But the Jets have the 3rd easiest schedule going forward, and you have to take advantage. And it feels like the Jets aren't going to be able to take advantage based on what we saw on Sunday. Before I get into a couple of the slides that I have prepared, I'll stop and see a couple of your comments. I see Snowball in here. He says, "What's up, DT? Appreciate you, Snowball. I reached out to Johnny Boy about this Friday, so hit me up in DMs on Discord later, and we'll talk about it. I'll be joining Johnny Boy and Snowball shortly on their Jets Worldwide wide podcast. Shout out to them. They are awesome. Always love sporting the JWW hat. Let's see what else. Yeah, Billy, how do you not put Fulkin to try for the win? Yeah, I mean, I know I just fumbled all the yardages and things that I was just saying in that final drive, but that's okay for me to do. You know, I'm just some dopey stoner with 3 monitors in South Carolina. Like, AG can't be fumbling. Okay, we need to get to the 35-yard line. That's a 52-yard kick. Like, Nick Folk could clear that with 6 or 7 yards. Your goal should have been get close to the 40, maybe the 42, and you kick a 58, 59-yard field goal with Nick Folk instead of going down swinging with Justin Fields standing in the pocket waiting to get sacked. David D., our resident Lions fan, he says, Dylan, do you believe that AG spent more time with the Jets defense in practice leading up to the Broncos game and had his hands on the Jets defense more than in previous games? We'll talk about third down defense, which is where I thought that they should do the biggest change specifically on this defense. We'll get into that a little bit more. But I think based on the data, I would actually say no, that I don't think he's actually putting his hands on this defense. Now, could he be behind the scenes and we don't know? Sure, maybe he is game planning a little bit more, but I feel like what I saw on film and what the data was kind of telling me about third down defense, we didn't really do the conventional AG press man, cover one, third down situations as much in the past couple weeks. So it's more leaning towards the Wilkes kind of not Saleh 4-3, but more zone than anything else. So we'll talk about the specifics about the defense, but I would say no, actually, about this with AG. Did I want him to be involved? Yeah, I did. And if he's not involved and they still went out and did that, then sure, that's fantastic. And I hope Wilkes continues to do that. Yeah, Jay-Z, still shocked they didn't run the ball more. That would have been the easiest thing to do. It felt like even when all 22 players on the field know you're running the ball, we still have moderate amounts of success doing so. So it's like, why not just go to it? If you get 3 or 4 yards 3 times, 9 yards is better than taking a 7-yard sack. It's a difference of 16 yards. So yeah, you can't have it. The situational play calling was very bad, and I felt like they just didn't give their team the best chance to win. And I'm fully with Garrett. I'm disappointed. Once you see their game plan unfold, you can't be anything but disappointed. Yeah, Palikari says JF kept retreating out instead of climbing, and it was agonizing to watch. Yeah, the running backwards out of the pocket stuff is it's so frustrating to watch as somebody who loves quarterback play. And it's very Zach Wilson-esque because week 1, he was stepping up in pockets, looking at a second and third read. When he scrambled out of the B gap, he was keeping his eyes downfield. None of that happened in this game. All the opposite things happened. Let's see. Yeah, no problem, David. I appreciate you tuning in as always. I guess you could kind of, speak to this. And I'm not a subscriber to this, methodology. I don't care what Dan Campbell's record was. And maybe your thoughts, David, about Dan Campbell when they were 0-8-1 or 0-10-1, whatever his starting record was. Maybe you were more out on this, regime, just like some of these Jets fans are. So maybe you could speak to that. But I'm done with that. Like, I don't care. That's pure copium. And that left for me, like, after week 2 or 3. It's every team is so different in this league. And you don't have to say Dan Campbell, this and that. I came through the mud with all these organizations, so we just got to suck a little bit longer, and then all of a sudden we're going to be good. Like, that doesn't resonate with me, and I don't like that messaging from AG, so maybe you could speak a little bit more to that, David. But On to what I had prepared in terms of data and slides. We'll add it to the screen now. All right, that works. So first one from our guy, Michael Nania of Jets X Factor. When he's not trading blows with Kurt Warner on Twitter, he is sharing some historically bad data against the New York Jets. When we say they find new ways to lose, it's certainly an accurate statement for the New York Jets. Nania says when a team has 0 turnovers, 1 or more takeaways, commits 2 or fewer penalties, and holds their opponent to 250 or less offensive yards. In the Super Bowl era, teams were 62-0, checking all 4 of those boxes until the Jets' loss yesterday. So, truly disgusting stat here from Michael. I usually love the numbers and the things that he puts out. Even some of the negative stuff is good to look at. But this one, truly not good to look at. The Broncos only had 246 offensive yards, but the Jets had 82. We had the same number of plays. They averaged 4.3 yards per play, and we averaged 1.4. Obviously, our net negative 10 passing yards is truly historic. I think that's a first for the Jets as well. Sacks, 9 for 55. We only sacked Bo Nix once, and it was at the very end of the game. Jermaine Johnson on a coverage sack. Sauce Gardner did a good job against Cortland Sutton in press coverage to help with that. Only 92 yards rushing, 3.0 yards per attempt. It says at the bottom 2 penalties for 15 yards compared to the Broncos, 6 for 37, and we win the turnover battle. Just truly, you look at this, and obviously you look at the passing stats and you say it's probably not a win for the Jets, but everything else points to this was in the bag for the Jets, and all they needed to do was muster up 3 lousy points at the end of the game. Bo Nix, I don't even think did a relatively good job in this game. I felt like there was times where Steve Wilks was out coaching Sean Payton for a lot of this. It's just, it was such a frustrating one. And when you let games like this slip away, I think they hurt me personally more than anything else. Like I'd rather, a blowout loss because in the first or second quarter, your team just doesn't have it. When they do this stuff at the end of games, it's definitely more frustrating. Offensively, taking a look at some of the personnel groupings, 11 personnel is still their, preferred personnel grouping because they're a lot of times behind in football games and they have to go to their 3-wide set. Their bread and butter, they've been trying to tell us, is their 12 personnel with 1 running back and 2 tight ends. This week, you can see against the Denver Broncos, they got back to that a little bit, 33 reps of 3 wide receivers and 20 reps of 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. So you look back at the Pittsburgh game where the splits are fairly similar, and then you look at the Denver game and it's like, okay, well, those were the 2 games we had our best chance to win. So going 12 personnel with Mason Taylor and Jeremy Ruckert or Mason Taylor, Andrew Beck seems to be the preferred, recipe for success with this offense. Even though I like the 12 personnel, I'm not a big fan of all these condensed personnels anymore. Like having so many guys crowded to the line of scrimmage, and I know that's the new thing in offenses nowadays because then you can shift and get a lot of leverage changes on defense. I just don't think it works well for the quarterback. And if you're going to scheme around your quarterback, you have to, in my opinion, go 11 or 12 personnel, more spread formations. You have to bring the zone read stuff back. And obviously you have to have the trust that we talked about is lacking right now in that. So to me, I like the 12 personnel usage. I just want to see it a little differently. I don't like the condensed personnels, and you have a lot of DBs over top of wide receivers, and I feel like they're in less advantageous situations to win when they don't go spread. Because sometimes when they go spread and they just go like 2-minute drill and they're just in 2x2 fields in the shotgun with a running back next to him, they get a lot of stuff done. So I get it. It's a lot of garbage time too, and that's going to inflate the 11 personnel stats. But I do like the correlation between Pittsburgh and Denver being our closest chances to win with the best splits of 11 and 12 personnel. Yeah, Jay-Z, this is kind of what I'm getting at. Engstrand is not utilizing the strengths of Fields, in my opinion. He wanted a pocket passer. If he wanted a pocket passer, they should have just signed Mac Jones. Yeah, Mac Jones is having a career resurgence with Kyle Shanahan right now, and he's doing and saying all the right things in San Francisco for sure. I can't say that would be the same result for him here, but perhaps, it could have been. But yeah, I agree with your overarching point is I think the Engstrand offense and the way that Justin Fields likes to play is two very conflicting strategies. Justin Fields holds the ball forever, and we understand sometimes that's baked into the mobility of it, but Engstrand loves timing-based offenses. So when you get to the back of your drop, your receivers in the timing of the play are breaking on their routes, whether it's in-breakers, out-breakers, what have you. So that's when you're just supposed to, get to the back of your drop and throw it. I keep harping on that simple kind of fundamental thing about quarterbacks, but Justin Fields doesn't normally do that. And there's a decent sample size of him doing that up until week 6, but they just didn't go to the quick game, or when they did go to quick game, he wasn't trusting what he was seeing in terms of coverage and routes. Obviously that equates to 9 sacks and just playing scared football, but let's keep doing the 12 personnel, but spread them out. Let's go back like Ohio State Justin Fields, spread them out. You can run similar concepts out of those spread looks as opposed to condensed, but I understand condensed is the new way to go and everybody loves it. So I understand it from a coaching perspective, but it is very it creates a lot of friction between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback for sure. And they haven't really admitted to it yet, but it's visible on TV when, AG's yelling at Engstrand or the quarterback and the offensive coordinator just don't seem like they're on the same page. It's pretty evident based on the film or just the game itself. Snowball says, "Whoa, I just realized that autograph Sabbath art in the back. Very jealous." Yes, sir. That is my prized possession. Shout out to my stepdad for that one. It's signed by all 4 members, Tony, Geezer, Bill, and Ozzy. Rest in peace, the GOAT. That's one of my favorite pieces for sure. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Okay, so this I broke down all of the week by week third down coverages, and we don't have to go through each individual week, but I have all 6 weeks here and then a conclusion at the end. So this is obviously week 1 and 2. They played a lot of cover 1. You can see here 9 reps of cover 1. It led both week 1 and week 2. And cover 1 is a man concept. So it's usually like press man, man across the board, 1 safety high. You usually have like a robber or a lurk player in the middle, whether it's the other safety or a linebacker. So it's a man concept. And they ran it 9 times in the first 2 weeks. Obviously 30% and 42% the first 2 weeks. And I think that specifically is the AG influence, if I just had to guess based on their philosophies, Glenn and Wilkes coming in to this experiment, and they haven't worked together before. So that's what I would just assume based on their histories. Then we get to weeks 3 and 4. You have a ton of zone on the left-hand side. So week 3, obviously there's unidentified coverages, which are probably just like run plays where it's hard to identify because there really is no shell post snap. But they did run a lot more zone in weeks 3. Obviously you see cover 2, cover 4. So they were trying the 2 high stuff in week 3. That was against Tampa Bay. And I thought that was pretty evident based on how I thought they were playing defensively. Obviously, the results weren't there. But then week 4, you go back to a little bit 50-50, cover 2 zone, and then you have cover 1 and cover 2 man as your next few. And then they're sprinkling in, you'll see cover 0 in there as well, 1 rep of each week on third down. Cover 0 is basically all-out blitz, man-to-man across the board, no safety help over the top. So they're sprinkling in cover 0 in weeks 3 and 4, and it seems like they're doing more zone, more half and half zone man. And then weeks 5 and week 6, they're kind of back to the cover 1 against Dallas. They're still running the cover 4. They add more cover 0, and then cover 6, which is the quarter half, which I've talked about a couple weeks ago on my channel. Quarter half is like the new defense to stop the passing game in today's like trendy, chess match of NFL play. Cover 6 is, sprinkled in here, 1 rep of each in week 5 and 6. This is all only on third down. So this is not every third down, obviously, just the money down. And then week 6, they're back to the cover 1 against the Broncos, and it actually worked. The man-to-man worked for the most part. I know a couple times they got beat, Sherwood specifically, but they're kind of mixing it up still. 3 reps of cover 3, 2 reps of cover 2, a rep of cover 4. Ultimately, it results in this. So the left side is the total coverage breakdown. The top right is the coverage splits. So you're looking at 34% man coverage on third down, 40% zone coverage on third down, and then red zone or unidentified coverages, which could be like a third and short where they can't really tell what the post-snap coverage looks like, is 25%. So it's pretty split man to zone. And I feel like this is more of the Wilkes influence than the AG influence. I think AG is more the man guy, Wilkes more the zone guy. So if I just had to assume what I think is happening on defense is it's just Wilkes implementing more of his schemes and the defense actually finally just like something clicking, whether it was Jermaine Johnson coming back and that players only meeting, something happened with what was going on with the defense, and all of a sudden it clicked. So they're doing their best. I guess I shouldn't say they're doing their best. I feel like that's such a cop out for the defense playing so poorly in 5 weeks. But when you have 5 backups playing on a defense, I feel like it's never advantageous. So now that they're getting healthier, I like to see this pendulum swinging back in the right direction. But I also think that they're just understanding the coaching points a little bit better. And again, whether that's the player only meeting driving that, or if it's the coaching points being adjusted behind the scenes and tweaking their way of speaking to the players, whatever happened between the Dallas game and the Broncos game, going to London, something clicked for this defense and something totally shut off for this offense. So hopefully back in the States, we can figure out exactly how to play complementary football, because that is eluding this team so much. Like Alvin Kamara versus the Packers defense. Complementary football is just eluding this Jets team right now. If we could just put together, honestly, like 2.5 quarters of complementary football where the defense creates a 3 and out, and then the offense goes down the field and scores a touchdown, for like 2.5 quarters of like that, we actually might win, 50% of our games to close out this season. Like that's how I feel about the talent on this team. And I know I've kind of been critical of the players in the past weeks and saying maybe we overrated the talent. It's probably about a league average team in terms of talent. I don't want to say it's top 12, top 14. It's probably closer to like 18 to 22 in terms of talent on this team, but like they can make it work. And it's really all you need, especially when you have guys like Sauce and Quinnen and hopefully Quincy when he gets back, Jermaine. The top guys, there can be a bit of a drop off to the next guys, but like when the top guys aren't playing well, obviously it's just going to trickle down and nobody's playing well. So I want to see the defense continue what they're doing, and I want to see the offense please turn it around. And if there needs to be a short leash on Justin, that's fine. Like go to Tyrod Taylor in the second quarter of this game if it's 10-7 and you feel like Justin just doesn't have it. The one thing I will say, injury related with Justin, and it's not to, give him an excuse. This is actually just more on coaching, in my opinion. It came out today, Justin Fields spoke to the reporters that he was dealing with a huge leg contusion that he suffered 2 weeks ago in Miami. Obviously, that was the game where he ran all over the field, scored the big 43-yard touchdown. That was super fun. Thank you, Ashton Davis, for running terrible angles into our backfield. We don't miss that for our own defense, but it certainly helped us there. But Justin Fields suffered a huge leg contusion. That was his words, huge contusion in his legs. and it was really affecting his play the last 2 weeks. Go to Tyrod Taylor. If the zone read stuff isn't going to be in the playbook, what is the point? Like, that's the part that really made me mad about hearing about Justin Fields' injury. I obviously feel bad. I don't want him to get hurt, and I want him to be the starter because that's who the offense was built around. But you can't have Justin Fields with a bum leg. Like, that doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work like that. And that's why you have to make that coaching switch to Tyrod Taylor. You have to be smart enough to, make the pivot. And I don't want to say it will cause a fracture in the locker room, but we've seen stubbornness at the quarterback position lead to locker room dysfunction. And SNY is already reporting that there are players on this team that think Tyrod Taylor gives the Jets the best chance to win. I don't know if those are offensive players or defensive players or practice squad players. It doesn't really matter. The fact that people are saying it already puts it into your head that this is creating a potential area for fracture. Now, when it comes to Fields specifically, I do think he has done some things okay and some things very well going back to week 1. But the overall theme of Justin Fields this season was if he has his legs, it's going to be great. And I think he can be really special with his legs. The second he loses his legs, you can't use him. You just have to make the switch. And that's not to say that I want to bench him for the rest of the year, but you really have to put your team in the best position to win. That's all it comes down to. Stop just saying you're going to do it and actually do it. And I think Tyrod Taylor at any point in the game gave them the best chance on Sunday in that second half specifically. Fourth quarter even, you could have gotten away with it. And I maintain that if Tyrod Taylor came in, managed to win or lose you that game, Aaron Glenn still has the ability to go back to Justin Fields against Carolina with no real repercussion. Like, yeah, Jets fans would say, wow, we just won a game with Tyrod Taylor. We really have to stick with Tyrod Taylor. But you can honestly, see the path more if you went back to Fields. It's just, it's a whole bunch of stuff. And now he's answering the questions to Costello about what kind of question is that. And you don't like the messaging around the quarterback position because that's what everybody's going to look to and everybody's going to, have their opinions about. And you really can't go, fighting the good fight for Justin Fields. I just don't think it's worth it. Yeah, Black Gypsy, this is what I'm getting at. He wasn't schemed correctly since Pittsburgh, and then he got hurt in Miami with the leg contusion. So it's like you're making it worse on yourself to continue trying to put a quarterback into a timing-based offense that likes to utilize his legs and hold the ball. So, yeah, philosophically, I don't think it necessarily made sense. I bought into the fact that they were going to, utilize Justin's strengths, and they showed it in week 1. Is that there's more on tape, so it's easier to break down and scheme against, or you just don't trust the guy, or you just think he can do more? It's like, whatever that disconnect is right now in offense, just go back to what was working in week 1 until it proves that it doesn't work. Yeah, Snowball, let's face it, we don't have a quarterback yet. It's unfortunate. Peg and Artie, I appreciate you guys. Congrats on the wedding. I know you had your ceremony, I believe, last week or the week before. So congratulations to you guys. You guys are awesome. But yeah, we're back in the quarterback discussion. I will be doing a Fernando Mendoza breakdown, the game against Oregon. Him and Dante Moore going head-to-head last week. The All-22 finally dropped for that. So I will be going through that, siphoning out some plays and finding some good and some bad about Fernando Mendoza. And I'll be putting that out on the channel later this week. I will have some cut-ups from this past game and a couple games prior, some Mason Taylor cut-ups that I'll be putting out for the A1 Since Day One community. So if you guys are interested in the exclusive content, $4.99 a month will get you in at that tier. Please like and subscribe to the video. I certainly appreciate it. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. My voice is starting to go. I'm learning that about an hour is my mark, unless I have water and tea in the office with me. Of course, Peg and Artie, you're absolutely welcome. Jay-Z, it's always exciting to have the number one pick because there's just so many options that you can do with it. You could take a quarterback. You could take Caleb Downs, which I don't really advise. You could take, a D tackle or an edge player. Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami seems pretty special. You can do whatever you want. You could trade down and get more assets in the first round or future assets. I think that's definitely the exciting part about it. I'm not as excited for the path to get there. That's the part that doesn't excite me, is the path to getting to the number one pick. If we were 0-12 right now, sure, I'd probably be rooting for losses more so than wins. I just don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm there yet. We got a super chat from Downs, $2 super chat. Pod Awful is on a generational run. That went way over my head. I don't know if you're saying my pod is awful, but I'll take a generational run. The Jets need to go on a generational run. That's how I'll spin that $2 super chat. Let's go on a generational run. Let's end the season 11-6. Let's get higher off the hopium, guys. Come on. We can do it. There you go, Billy D. 11 straight, Super Bowl. Bang. That'd be probably 14 games straight because they'd have to go through the playoffs. But I'm with you, Billy. Let's spin that. Let's go on our own generational run. I don't see it. I just don't see it, unfortunately. But I appreciate you, Downs. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Let's see what else we got in here. Billy, but the Jets are getting worse each game, although the defense just showed up. Hopefully they do the rest of the season. Yeah, it was definitely a peak in Pittsburgh and then down like a deep valley in Buffalo. They kind of crawled out of it a little bit in Tampa Bay. Obviously, you had the hope of winning in that 2-minute situation. And then ever since the Tampa Bay final drive, it's just been a slow kind of flatlining process for the Jets defense. Now they had a bit of an uptick. I mean, 13 points, I'll take that. They're averaging 30 points a game or whatever it is, 28 points if you take out the pick six of Tyrod Taylor. So, yeah, I'm with you. You gotta show me something for the rest of the season, but it did look good from a defensive perspective for the majority of that game. Now, if you get week 4 offense from the Jets where they were really establishing the run game, obviously Braylon gets hurt, but they were really establishing the run game and Justin Fields was running really well before obviously the contusion. He was doing okay throwing the ball. He wasn't anything special. If you get that version of the offense and you get Sunday's version of our defense, why not? Why not win 4 games? Come on. Do a damn thing. Like just one time. Do a damn thing and everybody show up. Everybody get off the bus all at the same time. Wild Wave says, if I'm the Jets, trade the top pick and build this roster out. That is very fair. I'm not going to do the whole quarterback thing, but if the Jets decide they don't love this quarterback draft and they are going to either stick with Fields or make a pivot to a different quarterback, like whatever they decide to do, I'm not saying which one they will do. If that is their plan and they want to go with another veteran or Fields for 2026, trade out of that number 1 pick, get more picks in 2027 and 2026 combined because you'll get a mixture of both. Trade out of that pick. Don't go too far. Maybe like top 8, top 10. Stay in that range. Don't trade it to like a 18th overall or anything like that. Although that would give you a very big return. You trade it out until like the top 8 or top 10 and you build this roster out with, 14 draft picks over the next, 2 drafts or 14 premium draft picks over the next 2 drafts, whatever they have. Like, yeah, you can make it work. I'm a huge draft guy, and we'll get into it more as the draft season approaches, but I'm always an advocate for getting more picks if it's going to help your team. And if they're not convicted or like, truly, sold on a quarterback, yeah, absolutely. Big Will, yeah, this happened last year. According to the report, The Athletic, Woody Johnson halted a trade for Jerry Jeudy after seeing his Madden rating was not high enough. Yeah, they did admit to using Madden ratings. in certain situations while making personnel decisions. I believe Joe Douglas admitted to it and Woody Johnson admitted to it. But then Eric DaCosta, the GM of the Baltimore Ravens, who is pretty much the, model of what to be as a general manager, he came out and said that there is some validity to using Madden ratings and that there is a legitimacy to that. Now, I will say, as it pertains to Jerry Jeudy specifically, and honestly, Tony Adams, we're gonna lump these two in together. Personnel-wise moves, if those are Woody Johnson decisions, my man is 2 for 2. Tony Adams deserved to be benched last year, and Jerry Jeudy is not the guy you want to trade for. These PFF stats and percentiles of Jerry Jeudy this season, he has 7 drops, most in the league. He is 79th of 85 in receiving grades and 84th out of 85 in passer rating when targeted. So, Woody Johnson may have been 2 for 2. My guy Black Gypsy again says Ben Johnson uses Madden ratings and runs Madden plays. Yeah, the inner 16-year-old kid with an Xbox controller running on a hamster wheel in Ben Johnson's brain is certainly doing a fine job in Chicago. That was a huge win for them over Washington on Monday night. Shout out to my dad going there on his 62nd birthday. Took a train all the way to Maryland to watch his Bears beat the Commanders on Monday night. Shout out to you, Pops. That's great. Happy for you. Yeah, they're doing pretty well in Chicago over there. But yeah, Woody Johnson was right on that point. All right, last one here from Wild Wave, and then we'll get out of here. All these quarterbacks are basically quantity over quality. You can find a developmental guy in the second round with a high floor. Get a blue chipper in the first and a haul if you can. Absolutely. And we'll do mock drafts, and I'll do first-round quarterbacks. I'll do second-round quarterbacks. I'll even maybe push it to a third-round quarterback, depending on how, I think the board is falling. And I'm not the guy that's going to abuse the simulator logic and say, oh, well, this quarterback always lasts till the third round, so I'm just going to take him. No. If my board and the PFF board don't really align, I'm not going to, abuse that pick, to try to swindle a good mock draft. So we'll definitely do first round quarterback, second round quarterback mock drafts, because maybe Cade Klubnik in the second round, if you have a guy and you want to bridge him into the future, then maybe, Cade Klubnik in the second round is your guy, and you get a guy like Ruben Bain in the first round. So, all right, we'll finish up. We have 2 more here as they come in at the buzzer. Dylan, no offense, but the fans told Woody to bench Tony. The fans told Woody to trade for Devontae and give up a third when we were 2-5 and the season was sinking. Yeah, well, sure. That's definitely an element of it, right? Woody can't get all the credit. We have to give ourselves some credit too. Sure, we were definitely calling for Tony Adams to be benched, but if Woody was still listening to us, why is Tony Adams still on this team? That's the thing. I don't know. So, obviously, the report said it was Woody's decision. I don't think it's fully his decision, but I had to give Woody some credit for the Jerry Jeudy thing, and he gets a little bit of credit for Tony Adams. But I hear what you're saying. Black Gypsy, what do I think about Shadur Sanders? I think that I'm happy the Jets didn't draft him. I am happy that he got promoted to quarterback 2 instead of Bailey Zappi off the practice squad, because I do think he will probably start maybe a game for the Cleveland Browns this year. I do think Dylan Gabriel is doing okay. He had a not so great game against the Steelers, but I thought he did okay in his first start. I don't know. I don't really have a ton of thoughts on Shadur. I don't consider him for this team, if that's kind of your angle of going about it. He's an okay processor. He's very accurate, not very mobile. He's a very good leader. I'll definitely say that. I just don't know if it would have been a fit here. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. I just don't know if that would have made sense. And truthfully, when it comes to his decision-making off the field, he should have gone to Baltimore. when they wanted to pick him in the 4th or 5th round or whatever it was in the draft, and they called him up and he said, I don't want to be the quarterback 2 behind Lamar Jackson. He should have taken that gig to be quarterback 2 because Cooper Rush has played games. Cooper Rush had 62 snaps coming into this week. So Shedeur kind of missed an opportunity to be quarterback 2, even if they didn't think long-term he was ever going to see the field as a starter. If that's his only goal is to be a starter in this league, then sure. But I feel like he needs to take some of the requisite steps to be a starter or prove that he is a starter. You follow it up with Shedeur or Fields. Okay, Shedeur versus Fields week 1. I'd take Shedeur. Or I take Fields, rather. Fields versus the Steelers, I would wholeheartedly take Fields. I think anybody would. Fields against Denver, I'm taking Shedeur because I think anybody, including you and I, could have thrown a pass if needed in that game. But, you try to find middle ground. Shedeur Sanders versus Justin Fields against Miami. I take Justin Fields. David says the Browns defense is a big-time unit. Even decent quarterback play would lead to them winning a few more games. Yeah, and I think eventually Dylan Gabriel or I guess Shedeur Sanders could get them to that point because the defense just kind of does their job. They maintain, they hold offenses to small amount of points, and they keep it close. So, yeah, it really comes down to making a couple plays as a quarterback in that offense. But they're not really the most talented offense. I like Quinshon Judkins. I think Dylan Sampson's pretty solid. And other than that, I mean, I'm not really a big Jerry Jeudy fan. I was early on in his career. They have a lot of banged up people. Their tight ends are cool. I like Njoku and Harold Fannin, but I'm just not a huge fan of their offense right now. Wild Wave. I'm calling off Mr. Jenny on Wild Wave for this one. Sanders will start against us and beat us too. I don't see that. I don't see that. We said the same thing about Zach Wilson. And obviously we made it out of one game against Tua and still lost. But, we got to just stop assuming that these quarterbacks can just come in and beat us. It's just not the way the defense played on Sunday. No way. Black Gypsy, I'll call in tomorrow on Jake's show. I have an offense for you. Okay, that's cool. I appreciate it, and I look forward to it. I will be on with Jake at 4 p.m. tomorrow, so you can tune into his channel. Everybody knows the Jake Asman Show. 4:30 start time tomorrow. That's going to do it for me on this one, almost an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. The A1 since day one tier, I will be adding more content to it this upcoming week. So $4.99 will get you all of that exclusive content, quarterback breakdowns, film breakdowns that YouTube loves to block when I put them public. So $4.99 A1 since day one tier. Still trying to figure out a better way to distribute my t-shirts, but if you are interested in getting a t-shirt, hit me up on any of the social medias. You see my handles down at the bottom, or email me, and we'll get you hooked up with a DT t-shirt. I have one right here. I have more coming. I just put the order in today. We will have more t-shirts for everybody if you want them. Certainly appreciate everybody tuning in. Maybe the Jets will win another game. I'll be back on my feed again, giving a preview and some more insight on the Jets-Panthers game, so stay tuned for that. I'm DT signing off, and until next time, let's go Jets.